that we would like to bid on. We only want one, but I'm hoping to just win one of the bids. This is a chance. They are, as our vehicles are now, they were not in LRTA service, they were in senior center service. So they're in much better condition. There was a vehicle there that was in LRTA service. I wouldn't patch it with a 10-foot pole. There's another vehicle on the bid list that has extremely low mileage, but it is a Dodge setup. It's a Ford, but it's a Dodge setup. It's got the lift in the front, and it's only a 5-passenger. So we'd be going from a 9-passenger vehicle to a 5-passenger vehicle. So that's why we narrowed it down to the 2 that you see there. There is slightly a catch. That being said, there's 2 catches. Because one is the money. I'll give you that. One's the money. The other catch is the 2 vehicles that we like, the first choice and the second choice, there's 16 passengers. So at the moment would require a driver who is a CDL. Now we have an open position and we have a posted position for a driver, and we could change that to be a CDL driver. And we'll talk more about the open position when we talk about our van rates. However, the gentleman at LRTA said, take out 2 seats and have it reclassified. I've been trying to get a hold of somebody from the RMV to get that answer. And let me tell you, I've listened to a lot of on-hold music. It's not an answer I've been able to get in time for you tonight. The guy at LRTA, it's funny, I know him because he was the guy who fixed the vehicles when I was a driver, so he hung out with us the whole time we were looking at the vans. He did have a very good point. If we purchased it and we were not able to reclassify, and we chose not to get a CDL driver, we could sell it for a profit. He said that there was another person that bought one of their vehicles, drove it to another intersection in Lowell, put a for sale sign on it, and got $8,000 for it. The bid monetary value that I've been given directly from the person from LRTA who supervises this is a vehicle in good condition, $3,000 to $3,500. A vehicle in not so good condition, $2,000 to $2,500. So to get a vehicle that looks like that and has 140-something thousand miles on it would be a higher capacity passenger-wise than what we're running with, and look more like the caliber of the service that we provide. For $3,500 even, I feel is very short money. Now I know I have the same pain that my other department heads do, is that there's just no capital money, and I'm sitting here not having the answer of where that money would come from. When we replace the Dodge, sell it. Absolutely. The wheelchair lift alone might be worth some money. Sell the Dodge. If I needed to sell the minivan as well, I'd be willing to do that. I feel that the vehicles that we have to provide services to our seniors are much more important than the vehicle that we have to kick around, you know, as staff members. We do use the minivan to drive seniors sometimes. If we have a medical trip into Boston, we might choose to take the minivan because it'll be less gas mileage and easier to park. And also the minivan has been needed if a vehicle has gone into the shop. But however, those occasionals versus having a vehicle like that in our fleet, having all Fords in our fleet, and having vehicles that our seniors want to get into. I can tell you, my dispatcher's here, he can verify as well. The seniors know when the Dodge is on a certain route, and they tend not to take it. And if you stood in there and counted the seats and say, I'd be hanging out in here with 9 other people in quarters that are like this, you wouldn't want to take it either. I mean, we need to provide services to our seniors at a certain level of dignity and caliber. And that van, you can see just from the front of it and all the chip paint, that van does not represent the caliber of service that we already provide.
Okay.
So you want to buy a van, but your checkbook's a little light.
Exactly. I'm not the only person in this. I'm not the only person in
Mr.
this
Spring?
position.
Yeah,
Is that something the advisory board could entertain if
sounds like
if we
sounds like the
pointed her to
vehicle
your
is
door?
kind of out of service, and we need to take it into providing service, doesn't that sound that way? Sounds that way to me.
So if we pointed her at your door,
Set up service,
that
right?
would be,
We don't meet until next Wednesday, I'll tell you that right now.
yes.
Her need is immediate. That's the issue.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you
Okay.
have to submit a check with it?
I do not believe so. I'm sorry to interrupt. I didn't make 4 copies of it because that seemed a little ridiculous, especially after all the copies of all the pictures and everything. Here is the actual paperwork, and so you're welcome to read through it and see what it says. And it does list all the vehicles with the place for you to write how much you're gonna bid on it, seal the bid, and they're supposed to be in by 11 o'clock tomorrow. If this was something that you guys were okay with, I would drive it there tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, just a couple things. One, we can put the bid in, well, if the board voted to do so, we can always put the bid in. They're not gonna sue the town if we had to retract it because of governmental problems. We couldn't come up, assuming that we couldn't come up with the money, let's say. And just for people who don't have the handouts at home and in the audience, is that what you are in audience? I don't know, it's sitting out there, in attendance at the meeting. So the Ford, you're spending $1,500 to $2,000 on maintenance now. I mean, correct, that you're spending half the value of what the new vehicle is, that's in much better shape, just on keeping the current ones running. So I don't think this is going to be something that we're gonna be, it's not a huge, in terms of town government, it's not a huge expenditure. And as you said, the dignity, quality of life, you know, this isn't Boca Raton, like a lot of people don't come to Templeton to retire. A lot of people have lived their whole lives here. You know, they've lived their whole lives here, they've paid taxes here their whole life. And for us to get hung up, right, to nickel and dime the Council on Aging over, a $3,000 vehicle, I think would be a shame. And if you're able to get half of the money from the advisory board, personally speaking, and you need to hold a bake sale every weekend between now and when that money's due, let me know and I'll make something, I'll be there. You know what I mean? I think that this is, of all the things that we could spend money on, taking our seniors and our disabled citizens to their doctor's appointments and to get food is probably one of the most important things that we could do. And for this price tag, I think that is, it would be a shame to not.
Truth in advertising, and for those people who don't have the handouts, we acquired the Dodge at the end of fiscal year 12, and since we acquired the Dodge, we have accumulated $1,659 in maintenance, labor, and parts. And that is with our highway department doing it, which, is as low cost as we can get. There will be some work that will need to be on either of these vehicles, so it wouldn't be a 100% plus for a 100% minus.
Right.
One vehicle has just a couple things, and the other vehicle, as I mentioned, might have transmission issues, which would then, but it's still, even if that was even, it's a vehicle with less mileage, it's a vehicle that's newer, it's a vehicle with more passenger capacity, and it's a vehicle that looks and better than what we've got now.
Right. When the problems are too, like a battery and air conditioning, not like the engine block or
Right,
something.
the
It's not
transmission, the
major.
transmission and the brakes, those are the two more expensive
Yeah, on this one,
out
yeah.
of them.
I would just like to mention on,
Yes, sir.
on the new vehicle, I'm the dispatcher, and the newer vehicles have better restraint systems on them for wheelchairs. The Dodge that we have, if you saw the restraint system, I don't think you would want your mother or your father or your brother or your sister being tied down to that vehicle. The restraint systems are 100% better on the new vehicles, and they're very much more stable. They will keep the people in their seats in case of anything happens. That's, from my perspective, I go from a safety standpoint, and when she looked at our Dodge, she knew right away. So the new Fords have so much better restraint systems, and it's a bargain. I just want to know, let you know, safety is number one, and these vehicles are 100% safer than the Dodge we have right now.
All right. Dan, did you have your hand up, Dave?
Yeah, I'd just like to back her up when she says that it's, it's time to replace that vehicle. We've done a lot of work on it, you can do just so much, and you're throwing good money in the bad if you keep going and going and going. From the sounds of it, for $3,500 for what they're looking at, I'd take a shot at that in a heartbeat.
Bev?
I was thinking, that's not a lot of money, same cars, second-hand cars, they want a heck of a lot more for them. I was wondering, even if we sold the Dodge, if it has a wheelchair lift, maybe that would be worth more by itself. You could sell it separate from the Dodge and maybe make more money.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
From a financial standpoint, you look at a vehicle and what the vehicle is worth. If you have spent more than 50% of what that vehicle is worth, it's time to get rid of it from a financial standpoint. That being said, you have some additional ways that they can end up possibly doing that. You could probably end up going through the bid process with them. Seeing, number one, you don't know if you're gonna win.
We don't.
That's number one. Number two is that I'm not sure, that I haven't looked at your particular budget, but you may be able to take and end up getting it out of your budget, and then we would have to take and figure a way to pay for that, either coming through the advisory board on an emergency basis, or, well, I guess Ken is gonna bake a lot of brownies and a lot of cupcakes here. That they can end up getting some money for that. I mean, I look at that as, yes, we do need the vehicle from a financial standpoint. It is small money, and it's probably time to get rid of the vehicle if it's costing us that much.
I feel like we can be creative and
Yep.
find a way, yeah.
Bud?
It's becoming more difficult to get an inspection sticker on that vehicle too. Bob really doesn't want to see it back at the garage.
Yeah, Bob's a pretty creative mechanic.
There's not much more he can do with it.
Bringing up Bob, I do have what Bob wrote about the Dodge van. He mentions the miles, of course, the 178,000. Needs to have a front pump seal replaced, with the possibility that the transmission would also need to be replaced. We're kind of gambling on how long it goes without the transmission. And just so you guys can compare, you see the pictures of what we want to buy. This is what our other two vehicles look like. So other than the striping, all our vehicles would look the same. The LRTA emblems have already been removed from the vehicles that are up for bid, and we already have the car magnet. They're like this size, it say Templeton COA, so all we have to do is just put them right on it. We've got like 4 of them hanging out in the dispatcher's office, just waiting for the right vehicle.
Are you going to do the bidding yourself? God bless the auctioneer.
Well,
We might get it for less.
I wish I could do that, but unfortunately it's the sealed bid, but.
Well, show up anyways.
They
That's
don't
a
give us
compliment.
I would. Look I can't help it. I mean, I think it's only appropriate that I fight as hard as I can for my department. And I also want to mention that on the bid list, there is actually a decent pickup truck. I know Bud was talking about being light on some of his plow vehicles. They had a pickup truck.
You're gonna get 2 for 1, are you?
I
believe
only
you
thought
would.
of it because of, you're asking Bud those
Okay.
questions, but,
See that?
yeah.
Deadline's tomorrow.
So,
Do you want a motion
to let her turn her loose
Yep, I would make a motion to,
on Lawrence?
You need to be specific about the amount. I don't think that's a decision that should be up to me. We have to put in an amount and hope we're the highest.
3,500?
Do we have an idea?
Do you wanna say that, you know, what your bid would be, or
We'll give you a
It's
range,
on camera.
you're on
Yeah.
camera?
we'll give you a range.
Okay.
Up to,
Okay, that makes sense. That's a, yeah, I can
I
understand that,
mean,
I'm
what
sorry,
you,
yeah.
Okay.
And then my other request is I would like to bid on both of our options in the, just to double our chances, that's all. I'd only want one, but I'd hate to lose one and, you know, there was the possibility that we could have gotten the other.
I will make a motion to authorize the director of the COA to enter a bid between, for no more than $3,500 for each.
Can we put 3501 or something?
3501, 35, is that okay?
I'm just thinking if the director at LRTA gave everyone that same range,
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to make a suggestion
Yeah.
that the actual bid, from a financial standpoint, Bud makes a very good point here, be discussed between the mechanic, the town coordinator, and that's what would be put in.
That's a good idea. Yeah, so I would make a motion.
I think it would be reasonable
Yeah.
to end up doing
Yeah.
that
Can that
based upon a mechanic's
happen tomorrow
ability
morning?
to take it and up
Yeah.
looking at it.
Okay, because my goal was actually to drive from home to Lowell since I live in Pepperell, but if you need me to come here and then to Lowell,
Well, could it be
we
a
did it
phone
to look at the
conversation?
vehicles.
Yeah.
Call it up, then.
Yeah, it could be a phone conference, I would say.
Okay,
So I will make a motion to authorize the director of the COA to make a bid to be determined by herself and the town coordinator and the mechanic in line with our general discussion this evening for tomorrow morning. On these two particular vehicles, the 2005 Ford Eldorado, well, they're both Ford Eldorados. So one ending in VIN number 60 and the other ending in VIN number 63.
I'll second that.
motion made and seconded. Hate to be that auctioneer.
Do we have any idea what the book values are on?
I don't, I did not blue book them, I did try to do one of those online, check the VIN number to see if it was been in any accidents and stuff, and of course you have to pay for those. The mechanic who has been in charge of working on them offered to bring Bob back to the shop and show him the entire work record. And Bob said that that wasn't necessary, although we would want a copy of that if we did successfully win a bid. We would walk away with a copy of all the previous maintenance records.
All right. Yes.
I've been looking at cars, $3,500, what are you buying? I mean, where do you get a van for $3,500?
It's a
Maybe I was
special.
looking at vans instead of cars.
I'm gonna drive one of those.
Definitely with you.
She might be.
They've got a van, they've got a truck on the bid list.
All you gotta do is bid 3502.
Comes with a 40-hour job.
I only have
I
one
don't like the
question.
red blue stripe.
Is this typical that they end up selling them at that type of, I mean, since you had talked about that other vehicle, that individual bought it and then did a resale, is that typical that they sell that, or they have problems with these vehicles? I mean, that's,
You never know.
LRTA seems to have a much better, bigger pie of the cherry sheet. They turn over their vehicles constantly. Mart never turns over their vehicles. They run them into the ground. I checked with Mart to see if they were gonna have any auctions. They said, no, they never buy anything new. So they never have anything to sell, which is why they gave us the Dodge in the condition that it's in. And I also checked with them to make sure that they would not, that I was not doing something to upset our relationship with them, buying from LRTA. And of course, you know, they said, you know, get it where you can. But they are gonna have more up for bid, no earlier than June, perhaps towards the fall. I don't wanna gamble that the Dodge is gonna wait that long.
All right. Yes.
Can I just ask, if you win the bid, like who will be able to drive it? Did you say that they're bigger, so do you have a driver who's qualified?
We don't, but we also have an opening on our driving roster, so we can we can hire somebody who has a CDL. I'm sure we can find somebody who has a CDL who can drive the back. If not, I will AAA it. But it seems like it's the size that I used to drive. It's just, in the back where the wheelchair goes, they have the option of 2 wheelchairs or the seats that fall down, that come down, and people sit in the seats instead. In the vehicle that I drove, there wasn't that optional seat. It was just, you either had wheelchairs in the back or you had groceries. That was that.
Okay. Any further discussion?
If you need a driver when it comes time, I'll be willing to go and put in for
Thank you very much, Chief.
Let's bring a couple of donuts. Oh, wait a minute, you're a fire chief, you're not a police officer.
It might be. That's a good point, it might be.
Sorry, wrong department, right? All right, any further discussion? Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And yes. All right. Takes care of the van. And now your bus driver
Okay.
rates.
Does everybody have a copy of my chart? Okay. Do you think anybody in the audience should have it? I'm gonna give one to Will.
Thank you.
So, like the van, this is something that, the rates that we pay our drivers is something that caught my attention, right away when I came on board. But, in 4 months, I can only tackle so much at a time. What has brought this, I did not come into tonight with the goal of tackling these 2 issues. What brings this to the table tonight is that we had a driver who left our employ to work for another town. Same job, more money. This driver, who happens to be a Templeton resident, dedicated driver, all of my drivers are excellent, but dedicated person, and it wasn't a tenure issue. He started driving the van in Templeton first. Yet you can see on the sheet of paper, this one driver was getting 1081 working for us in Templeton, was getting 1345 working for Westminster, and was getting 1360 working for Ashburnham. So when there was a switch up in the drivers in Westminster and they needed someone to fill some hours, he wasn't going to continue at 1081 and let go of 1345. I don't blame him. So that's what brought this to the table tonight. This is, I know you all have the goal of trying to fix the pay scale, trying to make Templeton's wages more competitive to the other towns across the board. This, I think, is a good place to start because 100% of our van drivers and our dispatchers' salary comes from MART. It's actually not in the budget, in my budget at all. It would not affect the town budget, it doesn't affect the town's taxes, although of course state taxes contribute to MART. And I have checked with MART just to make sure, and my contact at MART says, go for it, we pay whatever your Board of Selectmen say to pay. Now what you have in front of you is the listing of all of our drivers, including the person who left. He's going to stay on the books as a possible sub. There is the also possibility that the person he's covering for in Westminster might come back from their surgery, and I would take this driver back in a heartbeat. You've got the days that they drive on the road. You've got their tenure with us, and you can see that I've got 2 drivers who are at least 10 years with us in service. And what they get paid currently, and what I know should be the appropriate rate. And then I checked in, and with Dawn's help, we checked all of the surrounding areas that had transportation to find out what they were paying their drivers. And you can see that on the chart below. 1081 does not exist in any other town. And then, furthermore, I looked to see who was making 1081 out of the town of Templeton and other departments, and I couldn't find anybody. Now, I was taking an annual report, and I was, taking the annual salary and costing it down. The only other people I know of that make 10 is my food pantry coordinator. And I promise you that I will be looking to adjust that in FY15. But these are adjustments that we don't have to wait to make. We can fix this now because it doesn't cost us anything to fix it. And so that's where I am with this.
Okay.
Just for whoever, because I don't have the requisite information. So what you're saying is that we set the rate, but then Mart will pay what?
100% of it.
Is it within?
No,
We set the rate.
no.
Oh, wow.
There is no cap. There is no cap.
$40 an hour now. I'm gonna change jobs.
You won't have to bake cupcakes, you can make a donation.
That's
I
right.
was on the phone with Mark before I came to this meeting to make sure that they haven't made any changes, there weren't any caps that they were discussing, nothing like that is going on.
Yeah.
What we say goes. And frankly, Mart is paying these rates for other towns already.
So you're looking for a vote to set the proposed rates, and then you will go to Mart?
I would need,
You want a letter, a vote
Yes,
from the
We
board?
need, we need to vote on it.
yes.
Right, no, that's,
Yes, a vote and a letter. I would like the rates for each, I've done what each individual should be making. Obviously, the percent change between employees is not the same. I do have 2 people that are already at the top, so their adjustment is not the same as the people who are going from 10 something to 13 something, 13.25. But they still should be recognized as having been there for 10 years and get a little bump as well. But their bump, of course, is little in comparison.
okay, so this again would be some employees, some residents getting a little bit of their state tax money back.
Yes, it would.
Without directly affecting
Yes, it
property
would.
tax
And I can
rates.
tell you that our clients are generous with their donations towards the van. Now, we bill Mart all of our expenses minus those donations that have come. They're paying those donations thinking that our van drivers are getting what they should be getting. They're getting a livable, respectable rate. I think that we should give them that.
Okay,
If you're
Julie.
going to be going out for a new driver, and one of the requirements possibly would be a CDL, would the requirement of a CDL increase the rate?
I would not want to start a CDL at 13, which is what I'd like to start any new driver at, is 13 rather than the 1081. I would have to do some research as to what a going rate for a CDL driver is, and then I would take it from there. My first goal, though, is
As
to
who you
take,
have left out?
is to solve this issue and treat the employees that we currently have the right way. But then my first goal with the vehicle is taking out 2 seats and getting it reclassified.
All right, I will make a motion to adjust the van hourly rates according to the chart provided by the COA Director, Bethany.
I'll second.
motion made and seconded. Any discussion, Doug?
I do, the fact that this is fully funded by Mart is great. It's not gonna cost the town anything. I do have a little concern though with going from 10 to 13. That's a big jump. We're not at this point able to raise anyone else.
Excuse me, please.
So, we're not able to raise anyone else. So, I'm just concerned that we treat, one group of employees one way and another group of employees another way. I'm not against the folks, getting an increase, because everyone in Templeton is underpaid, in my opinion, and I hope that in the next budgeting cycle that we can improve upon that. So That's just my only concern. And I did look through all of the rates that we currently pay employees. And as Bethany pointed out, the food pantry person is the only other person in the $10 range. And there's only one other person in the $11 range. $12.15 seems to be our starting point with most anyone.
And this is in that funny realm, like half of her salary is, you know,
Mhm.
from there, so they only pay for half of that. And I think sometimes that's not realized, you know, people look at that one salary and think it's coming out, but only part of it comes from the taxes, so, but that is, I know that's a concern, but, Bethany?
If I could just speak to Doug's point
Yes.
for a minute. I don't have in front of me who is in the $12 range, but I can speak from experience. The responsibility and stress of someone driving a van full of seniors, bringing them, and I don't mean to say that it's the seniors. When we go every
Dealing with
single-
you is,
When we
I
go to
wouldn't wanna do
Gardner,
something wrong.
when we go to Gardner every single day, we've got at least 10 people on that bus. Each person's allowed to make 3 stops. We've got to get every senior to the bank, to the grocery store, and to the pharmacy, and get them home. There's a whole lot of responsibility there. We've got people who go to and from medical appointments. We bring people to and from dialysis 3 times a week. Can you imagine the stress and the responsibility of picking up a patient from dialysis? And then when we talk about wheelchairs, we make runs for a Baldwinville nursing home sometimes. You talk about the stress of, oh my God, did I tie down that wheelchair strap? We call them restraints. That's really what they are. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 places, 7 places. That's a whole lot of responsibility. So I don't know the other $12 people that you're speaking about, but I would argue that our van drivers are taking on more than those other positions.
That's a good point.
You should really be the auctioneer. Kudos to you, honestly.
I still pity that auctioneer. Any further?
I should just get rid of it.
I just want to tell Ken, we have a cookie sale next month.
Okay. I'll get cooking.
And I'm already baking.
You've been called already, haven't you?
I know.
Yes.
Alrighty. Made and seconded. Julie,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
and yes.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
On the bid, would you be willing to, fill it out and sign it, leave the amounts blank? Jeff, I guess you and Bob will have a phone conversation, and then you and I will have a phone conversation, and I will go straight from Pepperell to Lowell and then from Lowell to here. Okay. Thank you all for your time.
Thank
You
you.
can only come back.
Say something?
Yes, sir.
I drive myself, I don't hate with doing that. But I was on a nominating committee with Charlie National and Priscilla LaCurse. We're the ones that voted her in.
So they're the ones to blame.
There's no blame there, her. That was a hell of a good job.
She was outstanding in the paper that came out right away. So I'm glad we got her. She's been a tiger. She's changed things in the new senior center, and she's done very, very good.
What a great person to have fighting for you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Bethany.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda, the amended agenda, is discuss ballot questions for the special election in January 2014 concerning elementary school finance and water department. This was requested by a selectman, Farrell. So, So, Julie?
I asked the chairman to put these on for discussion because we are having an election on January 14th. I am a member of the Templeton Elementary School Building Committee, and there has been some discussion about additional money for the feasibility study. We had $300,000 left from the original $550. I would like the board to consider putting on a non-binding referendum, just so that we can get a feel for how people are when they vote. Are they going to support financially a new elementary school? And I don't know any other way to do that. I know people have come up to me and said to me privately, you know, you're crazy if you think I'm gonna vote for a new elementary school. That's all anecdotal. I think if you had a non-binding referendum question, we would actually know how large of an issue it is, if it's an issue at all.
Makes sense.
So that's why I would like to try it. If we didn't have an election, it wouldn't be on there. But we have an election coming up. It's, I think, an opportunity to try to gather some feedback from the residents to figure out where they stand on this issue. Because it's been a long time since the original feasibility study was voted, and a lot of things have happened in the meantime. So, I would like to make a motion that I don't have the wording, I don't know how to word a non-binding referendum on a ballot, but I would like to see that wording placed on the ballot, and I believe the due date for that would be December 12th.
It's a water department, Julie.
Well, I'd like to do it one at a time.
Oh, okay.
Hold your fire there, man.
I'm getting late, I gotta go watch
Did you
my
have-
TV show.
So, that's an informal motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Did you have a question, Ken? No. Oh, I thought I saw movement.
I'd like to ask a question, Mr. Chairman, which is then, who will construct the language? We can certainly have council glance on it. Obviously, it's non-binding. It's just a consensus of the town. But the way a question is phrased does make a difference, and the information you communicate in the question and in any materials on the ballot does make a difference. So I certainly wouldn't want to take that on myself. I'd like some guidance from the board as to who's going to design the question, and of course, we can have council review it.
Yes.
Just, could we, kind of maybe discuss or lay the groundwork for what we generally think would be appropriate, and then since we're having a meeting, right, on the second, we'll would have time, we could to like actually then, so then Jeff, you won't feel like you're taking on this responsibility, would ultimately review it and see if there's anything we wanted to discuss after, you know, make changes or whatnot, before we actually put the exact language on.
So do you want to table it, or do you want to
We could
do the wording?
Well,
I
we
think
could make
table
it,
it till the second, and then they give us all a chance to look,
Yeah, just to,
or call, talk to Carol. Let's see, no, she's leaving, when's she going?
I think she's gone now.
Yeah, she's, yeah.
we could, if, I don't know, if Selectman Farrell wanted to vote on the record, we could vote to construct the language to be,
Okay.
you know, to be voted on in a final form next.
Next Monday?
Yeah.
Okay,
Is that fine?
that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, we can all look up, there must be something out there.
There must be some templates somewhere.
Check it out. Template for non-binding. Trying to think if we ever did. Trying to think if we ever did that
Doug
before.
seconded the first one, didn't you?
I did?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember if we ever done it.
I don't know, I don't remember.
Well, I don't remember a lot well since 2003, and that's,
Yeah.
well, I didn't pay attention before that. Well, I was out and about. Yes, well,
Just as a recommendation, if you want to put something on the ballot such as this, really need to take and end up making sure we do some communications along with that. Website, whether we put it in the paper, especially when we have a representative from the newspaper, and hopefully she's around long enough, because I understand she's looking for another position in the newspaper. We may get somebody else, if you could pass that
I hope Mrs. Bell knows about that already.
Yeah.
She
We'll
does
talk about
now.
it later.
Yeah.
Thanks, Will.
I could read that, you're looking for additional people, and there may be a shuffling here. It doesn't take much to take and
You
understand
have
that.
me tonight.
That's right.
So,
Advisory Board Chairman, make a note.
I should remember that we're on camera.
Okay, so,
So we'll get something together for, but we have to vote.
second. So, and nothing further? Good. All right, Julie,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
and yes. Okay, that's non-binding for the school finance. That was, you just made the motion just on the school finance, right? Was
Yeah.
that-
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. As to the water,
The water department, I've thought about this long and hard, especially after I got my rate increase letter. I would like to see a ballot question to rescind Chapter 93 Acts of 2000, which took the water department away from the town, under the guidance of the Board of Selectmen, and put it under the light department.
so a non-binding ballot question for that issue? Julie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad idea. I think that will take a lot of education. I mean, the people need to know what's the impact of this vote, between now and January, so that we can do a good enough job of communicating the pros and cons of doing that.
I get everybody just.
Now, do they make note, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
like, is someone allowed at the ballot to explain that to people when they come in? That it's like a non-binding?
No, you can bring,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
you personally can bring information into the booth with you as long as you take it out
Okay.
with you. You
Yeah.
can't leave stickers, you can't hand stuff out. I mean, you could be across the street as people drive by and, like, I'll wash your window and stick it in their car, but you can't, you
Yeah, it
can't.
was just for knowledge.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't,
No.
can't you put, something on the wall though, like that you can direct people, like you can go over there
They
and
get sample,
that?
a sample
A
ballot,
sample ballot, but not
that's it.
actual-
No,
Right.
the only
Okay.
information, like stuff
I
you
see.
can bring in, you bring it in yourself, but you can't, other than like a sticker
can't share
for
it with
write-in.
anybody,
But you
you
can't,
can't-
yeah, you can bring in like notes, remind yourself like, oh yeah, this, that, but you have to take it with you.
As long as you're outside the setback, you can have an informational table out there, in the parking lot,
Right.
but, or
Yes.
But not
hand
to
out
bring-
as people go by, you just
Yeah.
can't be inside the,
There's a
Voting zone.
footage, yeah, there's a footage requirement from the entrance, and the property of the thing. Okay.
But just particularly with your question about whether or not it's non-binding, that information I would assume would have to be provided because people would have to know,
Right.
because people would think that it's
Right,
binding
I
if
just
you
don't
didn't,
want
right,
them to
yeah.
be confused that
Right.
it's just trying
Right,
to collect
right,
data.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm not even sure how to word,
Yeah.
like, can you put non-binding referendum question on the ballot? I don't know.
You would just want people to actually answer the question and not answer because they don't understand whether or not it's gonna be something that the town is obligated to.
Right.
That would really be the larger thing, but to have something non-binding just to ask is great.
Just to get a feel.
Jeffrey?
But I do think on the water one, unless people are educated, you're not gonna get a good response. You're not gonna get a legitimate quorum of what you're asking.
Was there something, the water department being made an enterprise or not? Was there some legal
That's
decision there?
part of the,
We're still trying to find that out.
we're trying to get an answer from the DOR
Yeah.
on that we sent almost 6 weeks ago. Because in the wording of the Acts of 2000, Chapter 93, it's almost the verbatim of the General Law 53 and a half.
Yeah.
That's right.
That says it will be maintained as an enterprise fund. And then for some strange reason, and the DOR doesn't seem to want to, either doesn't want to answer or doesn't have an answer for the question why that enterprise book system was taken off the town's books in '07, when it specifically says in the acts that were voted on at town meeting and okayed down in Boston, actually the legislation passed, that it would be as an enterprise fund. So, and that's a question that, like I said, we sent an official letter out. We've sent a letter to our state senator and our state rep for, assistance in letting them know we're asking this question of the Department of Revenue. And some 6 weeks and we haven't
Well,
gotten
right.
an answer.
And it's not just, a technicality, it has real financial ramifications for the town. You've lost this asset that was on our books, it's now gone. So we have less that we can use to raise and appropriate. We don't know, where the money's going, basically. And when you turn it from an enterprise, it's just an accounting mechanism. It keeps all that money within the department. So anything extra doesn't go to the general fund, doesn't go here, doesn't go here. It's the same with the sewer. The sewer has a sizable enterprise reserve fund. They have hundreds of thousands of dollars in it. The water enterprise should have a system like that, and then they wouldn't be looking for these huge rate increases. So it's a mechanism that we need an answer to for our accounting and for our town financial stability. And no one seems to be willing to provide it.
So we'd be better off under an enterprise, right?
Well, it was supposed to be an enterprise fund.
Right.
For some mysterious reason, that changed in '07 as far as, why it was off the town books, how that came, who okayed, how. It just happened and trying to get we're asking the DOR for an answer.
Yeah.
We never voted at town meeting. We never voted at town meeting.
And they said
That was
if.
one of them shifty deals up to the light office.
Okay, if
Let's
they
face the
s-
facts.
An email
Guy
from,
loses his pension, let's talk.
an email from the second in charge of Division of Local Services indicated to me that if the board sent a letter, a vote by the board and signed by the board, sent to them, they would at least answer the question of where's the case law, what's the basis for removing that off the town's books. We voted on that, we did that, we sent it off to them some 6 weeks ago. And have not heard back yet, so. Bev?
I've been looking at the water and light company for the last couple of years, a few of us have. And now, all of the rate increases are going to make it harder and harder for people to deal with them financially. And I think this is an opportunity for them to understand what really is going on as to what Jeff's talking about, the fact that the town really has no say as things stand. It's like wearing a pair of small shoes. Until they really hurt, people aren't going to, they'll accept what you hand them. But once those shoes hurt too bad, then they'll start asking questions, and this is one of the questions that has to be answered. And people have to be aware of what's going on. It's a good thing.
Well,
I'm not gonna end up saying anything until you recognize me, you know that. Those are the types of things that we try to point out at the annual town meeting, is because it is the way that they're trying to work it. It doesn't show up on our tax recap, number one. Number two, as you heard me say earlier, we have one of the highest water rates, and also the budget is, you know, it's got some, as far as the advisory board is, it has some excess as far as, it's in salary, that expenses that shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be there, when we look at other water departments. And then you've got the fact that you have the issue where you can't end up shutting off the water, especially if you have a sewage issue. In other communities, that's not an issue. Both of them are in, as far as enterprises, under the government, you know, the fold of the general fund or whatever, and as enterprises. And if you have an issue with non-payment for sewage, you can shut the water off because it's a dual bill. They've separated themselves in doing that, and they've caused a lot of financial hardships for both of, you know, within the community as well as for the sewage department. And the sewage department has been looking for a solution for some period, and they have very little as far as resources to end up doing that. They can put liens, etc., but shutting the water off, basically, if you don't pay your sewage, is what other communities do, and we should probably be in the same thing. This will continue to go on until it's settled, unfortunately. And that's, from a financial standpoint, it's not good for us if they can end up having it in the present condition. It's leading to costs that are much higher when we look at other communities. And that's really what the advisory board looked at, and trying to get that cost down for the general public, because most of there's a number of us that are on the advisory board, and we, just like some of the other people that were spoken, I'm on a well, and I'm still fighting for the folks that pay for the rates over there. It's not going to end up affecting me one way or the other as far as what you end up paying for water. But I think it's just a little bit too excessive.
It's just not good government, in my opinion.
Ken?
When also, and we had this issue with the water budget, you know, back during annual, that the worst thing in any kind of situation, particularly in government, is uncertainty, because our town council is of one opinion, their attorney is of a different opinion, and when there's no one that can settle that, it creates constant conflict where every little thing then becomes this major war issue, because if they are, you know, if they feel like they're caving in to the town, then they feel like that they could lose ground on these bigger issues that we don't have certainty about. You know, and the same thing for us, as you know, the Board of Selectmen, or at least me personally, I'd be hesitant to just kind of, not knowing what I'm supposed to be doing, you know, or what the board is supposed to be doing in regards to water, makes it really difficult to know what things we should be kind of letting go, what things we should really be taking a stand on, when we, you know, do we even have the power to take a stand on some things? You know, even though it's non-binding, I think knowing what the townspeople may do may affect the way that the water department may choose to operate, and it may help both sides kind of work together better, because we'll kind of know what the town wants, and, you know, be able to go forward, I think.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, one more. Last year, we ended up trying to get their budget, and we had given them forms through the coordinator. It was quite hard for us to end up getting something, since we have to end up making a recommendation on their particular warrant article to the community if we can't look at that budget. It was a case of, and I'm not the bearer of this information. I lost the template. The Microsoft template is what we got from the general manager. I was willing to take and end up providing him with a template, which we did that we used for all the rest of the budgets, and I ended up having to take his sheet that he had and try to make a comparison from one year to the next, so we could end up making a better decision. And then we provided that back to him. I mean, it was quite, from our standpoint, there was a little bit of difficulty in trying to get that information in a form that we could end up looking at and forthcoming from them. And that we saw some things that definitely we shouldn't end up seeing on a water budget. I mean, I could go on a number of things, it's just difficult as such to get a budget from them. I'm really not sure if they're going to be willing to take and end up giving us a budget this year. I will be providing them with the template when I go to either meeting in December or in January to take and end up saying, here's the template, please provide it on this format so that we can end up making a decision as far as advisory board, the same way we do with the sewage. Sewage, I had no problem with getting the budget from the sewage. They were very, very forthcoming, not as much from the water department. And that's a difficulty.
All right,
Seconded? I don't think it was seconded.
no, we didn't get to, so the motion has been made. Okay. Motion made and seconded.
Because again, we're doing non-binding.
Yep.
Okay. Go about this the same way.
Yes, in December, so we'll come back to some wording, hopefully.
Track something down. All right, Julie,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
and yes. All right, the next item on the agenda are appointments. John Henshaw for Open Space, Robert Olson for Open Space, Lori Mattson for Capital Planning Committee, Alan Mayo for Open Space Committee at Large, Templeton Common Improvement, and Karen Tucker for Open Space. And this would be through to June 30th, 2014.
I think we still need verification
From,
from Robert Olson and Karen Tucker.
Good enough for you in your packet somewhere.
This one color.
they didn't get,
I got the one Bennett has, so I'm off the page.
Put it on your desk.
yeah, who needs color?
Last night, today.
So you didn't hear back from Karen or Bob?
No, so I was gonna wait till next week for them, till they say yes.
Please.
Okay. We'll appoint John Henshaw to Open Space Committee, Lori Mattson to Capital Planning Committee, Alan Mayo to Open Space Committee, and the Templeton Common Improvement.
So moved.
Second?
All right, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. Julie,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
and yes.